you to Vandergraaf for sponsoring this month's edition of Road to Recovery. Visit their website for more information about the Vandergraaf drum motor designed specifically for heavy industry applications.
Once you complete an acquisition, the work's not done necessarily. There's integrating that company. River Aggregates is a new acquisition. And this is kind of the norm now for StonePoint with the number of acquisitions over the course of time. What's your approach to fitting in a company into StonePoint? Because companies have different cultures and ways of doing business. Is there a certain mindset that you try to bring into it, and what do you look for in that selling company or that acquired company?
Yeah. In terms of the integration, you mentioned before that there's a couple of different approaches to doing that. The first thing that we don't rebrand companies. And what I mean by that is, companies have usually been in the markets for, 10, 15, 20 years, could be upwards of 40, 50 years. They've really, developed the brand name. They've developed a lot of goodwill in those local markets. So one thing we don't do is rebrand. Quite frankly, if you're in the Clarksville market, people have probably never heard of StonePoint before, but they have heard of Win and they have heard of Macintosh. So we like to really, leave that in place. It's one of the reasons the company's done so well. The next thing we do is, and I think we're somewhat unique here. We have these conversations really early on with the owners. Owners are selling for a reason, and there could be a bunch of different reasons. But one thing that we like to really understand early on is, what's the owner's goal? We understand they want to sell, but do they want to stay on board? For an indefinite period of time? Do they want to stay on board for a limited period of time, either in their existing capacity or maybe as a consultant? Or do they want to retire immediately? So we're flexible as far as that is concerned, and we've kind of dealt with all those all the situations. Again, we like to have those conversations early on. You might have an owner who's thinking of retiring. His kids want him to spend a little less time there, but he's not ready to do it yet. So again, we're flexible about letting him stay on board if we want. The other thing we do in terms of integration is oftentimes these smaller privately owned companies have a lot of young talent, really strong talent within the company. And we like to go in there. We like to identify those guys. We like to really continue to develop them. We might pair them up. We might mentor them with somebody else in the company to help them grow the business. It may be that they've been there most of their work life and they haven't had the opportunity to maybe learn some other ways. And I got to tell you, we found some really strong young guys that we want to, kind of develop as part of our next generation. We're always thinking about the depth. We're always thinking about bench strength. And again, if you can get some of these young guys, coming up with the business, they can be good. So we like, we like to look at that. And then on the operations and sales side, kind of the same thing. If you're in operations for at a company that has a single site, they probably don't have the benefit of being able to pick up the phone and calling some of their colleagues and saying, "Yeah, I've got an issue," or "I've been thinking about doing something a little different." It's usually within the company. So we'd like to get them to meet some of the other, some of our other operating or sales or even, back office and accounting people, develop that relationship so they have the ability to be able to pick up the phone and call someone. We kind of think that really works well. The other thing is, sometimes these companies are kind of capital constrained. So what we do is we come along and, if they have ideas of areas they can grow the company, we talked about areas of growth before, such as some internal projects. We've got the capital to help them do that. So we're pretty flexible there. One area which I'd say we're not as flexible on is when it comes to safety. It's one of the first things we look at the company. We like to understand what the safety culture is. We like to understand what sort of plant equipment that they have. And we really kind of review that early in the process because we want to make sure that they understand that safety is first and foremost importance to us, and we let them know that, and we really try to kind of overlay our kind of safety protocol, more than protocol, kind of our philosophy, and typically those are sometimes the hardest things to change. It takes time for people to think a little bit differently. But one thing we found is, everybody's completely open to making sure that safety is kind of first and foremost in their minds, and that's kind of worked out well. What's really interesting is, a lot of these owners, it's not getting the top dollar for their business. It's a business that they've worked at probably their whole lives. People are important to them. Kind of the name are important to them. When we come in and we kind of have these conversations with them, we kind of talk about what their philosophy is. I think they take a great deal of comfort that they know that we're going to kind of again look after the people. And it's something we can probably offer that's a little bit unique to some of the other companies that are out there, and quite frankly, it's probably because of our smaller size. And again, these owners typically tend to live in the same community, right? So some of the employees I've worked with for 20, 30, 40 years, they're probably going to run into them at the grocery store, or might be at the ball field and stuff like that. And that what's important to them is knowing that, again, their employees are kind of being looked after going forward.
Thank you to Vandergraaf for sponsoring this month's edition of Road to Recovery. Visit their website for more information about the Vandergraaf drum motor designed specifically for heavy industry applications.